Welcome to Am I the Bleep?
So why aren't you emotionally ready for this episode, John?
I'm not emotionally ready because A, we don't normally have guests on, and B, we don't normally have guests who are to this order of magnitude familiar with our bullshit.
That's true.
I don't want to be called out for an entire lifetime of nonsense that I've said on a podcast, but I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point.
Where you're already being called out for an entire lifetime. Now the podcast is just additional fodder, I guess.
Yeah, the podcast is recorded evidence of my nonsense.
You've been punked. This special guest who's gonna now use this podcast as fodder for the rest of our lives. Do you want to speak up, introduce yourself, give us your
Hello.
name, your story?
My name's Josh. I went to high school, well, actually elementary school, with both of the Jonathans. I've heard the show. As they say on the radio, first time, long time. I have read "Am I the Asshole" for many years on Reddit, and so I'm excited to hear their takes on these stories we're going to tell. I do YouTube, so that's my background. So, you know, I read these sometimes on live stream and we have fun. So it's going to be interesting to have, other people to bounce off these ideas and to see whether or not we agree that these people are bleeps or not.
So
Yeah, Josh has a small channel where he reads limericks and poems, critiques mid 17th century literature.
As one does.
Yeah, check out JROSE 11 if you want to have a good time through Shakespeare and all of history.
And before we get into the actual show, because we have a guest, I want to restate the what are we calling it? The
format,
the order of assholery, the rating scale. Did we ever give it a name? I feel like
no, but this might be a good opportunity. A rating scale where we rate if someone is the asshole should have a good name.
The order of assholes. That's what we're calling it.
The order of assholes is pretty good.
We're going there. So first name, best name, first thought, best thought.
Exactly.
So basically the way this works, we're taking turns as per usual. We're reading these posts. As we're reading the posts, you, the listeners, get to think about your own opinions and form your thoughts. But we're going to tell you what to think anyways after that. And the way we're going to tell you what we think is we're going to say whether or not somebody was the asshole. So they're completely the asshole, is the asshole, pretty much the asshole, kind of an asshole, or not the asshole at all. So it's a 4-point rating scale from not to yes, with kind of an in-between gray area. And that's where the real fun is. But today, we don't know what's going to happen. This is the first time any of us are seeing any of these posts. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we wake up in the morning. We just start thinking about assholes, and we have breakfast, maybe a nice balanced breakfast. Then we record. It's what we do.
I've been informed that it's actually a clinical condition that I wake up in the morning and I start thinking about assholes.
What's that clinical condition called?
That's unnamed. It's actually going to be added to the DSM come next cycle. So that's exciting.
In fact, Jonathan thought of being a proctologist before being a psychotherapist. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. It's my firm hand.
Is that true?
No,
it's because he thinks about assholes.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Speaking of assholes, I know exactly who I want to read this first post. How do you feel about taking it away, Josh?
Sure.
That's not a nice way to talk to your guests.
You're right. That's true. I forgot. It's okay because we've been friends for so long that he knows that it all comes from a place of love. But for the audience out there, dear guest, loving, wonderful, sweet guest, will you please read our first post and get this ball rolling?
All right. Am I the asshole for telling my mom she can't talk to my kid about her miscarriage and take him to the grave? So I, 28 female, have a son, 5 male. I was adopted and grew up the consolation prize for the miscarriage of my mother 68 female had at 20 weeks. A lot of numbers. We had to go to this fetus's grave every year. One of my earliest memories was her forcing me to give my favorite stuffed rabbit to the grave. I grew up with her venting about how hard the miscarriage was to me. And I honestly think it was super inappropriate and made me feel like a second option to what she actually wanted. I obviously was never good enough. I recently found out she took my son to the fetus's grave and told him about it. I told her that's an off limits topic and he has no business hearing about her miscarriage at 5 years old. Now, some people in my life are saying that I am an asshole for telling my mom she couldn't tell my son about his dead aunt, but I think I'm justified in not wanting him to have to hear about it too. It was literally 30 years ago. Am I the asshole?
You don't need to go through the edit. Well,
No,
sometimes
we
go
can
through
talk
it
about
later.
that later if we want to.
Hey, this is
Like,
our show. You're the guest, okay?
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
censor.
We'll tell you if we can go through it later if we want to. You're right, but we'll tell you that.
sorry, I've done this before, right? So like I always like to do the edit after and the comments at the end if we have to, but I don't like looking at the comments. It
Well then,
taints your position.
Well, then you're gonna have a lot of opinions, but first off, I gotta say, like, gut check, Johnny. What do you think?
Gut check. I think that this person is not at all the asshole. And the reason, can I go into it? Are we doing like a roundtable?
Yeah, do it. No, do it. Go for it. Go for
Okay.
it. Go for it.
I don't. After Josh has thrown out the instructions, I can't go any further off the format. One more twist today, and I'm gonna start talking about pomelos again. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Absolutely.
The return of Papa Citrus, episode 2.
Oh no, Papa Citrus is dead. We're not bringing back Papa Citrus.
Okay, so I think not the asshole, and here's the reason. And there's gonna be a second piece to it, but just totally not the asshole. Reason is the way you are with your child. We're gonna take out the the historical trauma and drama from your mama out of this, which is my new favorite way to say that. The way you are and the way you teach your children ultimately is your choice. And teaching children about death is something that's going to come up eventually, but that's something generally parents want to have a plan on, have what's the word? Like have an agreement upon how they want to talk about that with maybe another partner, whoever else is going to be involved in that discussion. And 5 is very, very young, but not to say that that's too young to talk about it. But depending on the family, depending on the religion, depending on the culture, there's probably a way that they want to teach about that. That's piece 1. So that's why I think it's not the asshole. There's a time and a place, and it's up to the parent to teach that in a way that makes sense for their child because it's a complex topic. Piece 2. There's an added layer of complexity with having had an aunt who was a miscarriage to the grandmother. Understanding what a miscarriage is, understanding how that fits in to this family structure can look 100 million different ways. And to teach that to a 5-year-old without the parents themselves consent is increasingly complex. Now, on top of that, there's extra feelings between our original poster and their adoptive mother. Is that correct? Yeah, adoptive mother. So I think not the asshole. I think it was their choice to do as they wanted. With that, I am curious about like what way is the right way to teach a 5-year-old about death. And I would be curious about asking that to the original poster. Like, what are the teachings in their family? What's the story? What's the way that they were taught about death? Like, what's the system, or religiously or culturally? And 2, what kind of relationship do they want with the mother? Is it like, is that something they want to approach? Is this something they're, kind of fed up with and wanting to move away from? Maybe in some way or another. Maybe we can talk about boundaries too. But in the context of the story and the actual question, am I the asshole for telling my mom she can't talk to my kid about her miscarriage? and take him to the grave. I think it's reasonable to say it's the parent's choice, not the asshole. Mic drop, float away like a bird. But Dr. Jonathan Rom, you are next in the order of the assholes, I think.
I saw Josh's face light up, and I'm curious, Josh, what do you think? What do you think about what Johnny just said?
I pretty much agree with everything. See, the thing is,
that's not why you're here.
No, but like, here's the thing, right?
Let the man cook.
I'm kidding.
I feel like a lot of this stuff is, is unnecessary. Like the whole drama and the background. At the end of the day, death, as you said, is a very serious topic. And it's not even a death, it's a miscarriage, which is very complicated. We're not going to get into any politics of what a fetus is, but that's the point, right? It's a very complicated topic for a 5-year-old. To me, not only are you not the a-hole, but the mother, I would have cut off contact if she did that. That is so inappropriate to take to a grave. Like, even if let's change the story slightly. Let's say it was her father and she was taking it. That would still be inappropriate. But to a fetus that had died 30 years ago, and to try and explain what a miscarriage is and to trauma dump on a 5-year-old, this story disgusted me. Like, I feel bad for the OP. I feel really bad that this woman didn't get the therapy she needed, but she seems like a terrible mother. From his perspective, she might have been a great mother, but clearly this person was extremely traumatized by this fetus, and to put that on his child is horrifying. I'm horrified by this. Oh, sorry, her child. Pardon me. It's a woman. I didn't know that.
Yeah, both of you make good points, and I think that from like a psychiatric perspective, if someone has this kind of complex grief, it tends to like manifest in different ways over many years.
Yep.
Now, if I understand correctly, it's been 30 years since this thing happened. So the evolution of how the adoptive mother, now grandmother, talks about this thing might have changed. We don't know, right? Like, that could be, we know how that she talked about it when the OP was a kid, but now when this adult is turned into a grandmother and she's sharing this kind of traumatic thing that happened to her, we don't know exactly how she's phrasing it. I can imagine some ways that you could talk about like a difficult thing that happened in the family to a child that, is more vague and more conceptual and less like graphic or clinical than other ways. But I could also ask myself, like, what is the intention behind doing that, right? Like, if you're trying to share that this is like a very special place for me because this is where I go to visit someone I cared about, that's one thing. If you're going to, as the therapeutic lingo has become popular in the zeitgeist, trauma dump or just throw everything on this kid, I don't think that's appropriate, and I agree with OP. The thing that we're not addressing here is that the OP has trauma from feeling like a second fiddle. And like, that is a reaction. That's the reaction that this person is showing, is like, I was hurt by what this adoptive mother did to me. I am not going to let her hurt my kid in the exact same way. That's a trauma reaction. And I feel like that requires like a lot of unpacking to be like, have you dealt with your trauma? Like, you're expecting your adoptive mom to have dealt with her trauma. Have you dealt with your trauma dealing with all of this? And like, are you trying to work it through it after the fact, now that like it's a problem because of this whole grandson situation? So those are the questions I would ask, but it's not necessarily like, I don't disagree with you with either of you. I think that this is like not healthy behavior in any respect, but I think that it's like multifaceted. I feel like everyone but the kid here is showing some like real trauma response kind of behavior.
And what's really interesting is, I think Josh and I kind of took the story factually, and it's like how do you deal with a 5-year-old and teach them about death, and like that? It's really like this journal, and when we're reading people's posts, the way they write it is always really interesting. And in this way, we have the question, am I the asshole for telling my mom she can't talk to my kid about her miscarriage and take him to the grave? Sentence 1 is about trauma. paragraph 1, and paragraph 2 is kind of about like the actual story, like what the mother did, taking the
Mm.
son to the grave. And we kind of looked at it factually, but you're like, what you're saying is that there's extra trauma pieces, and in a way, this original poster acted not just to say like, hey, that's not cool that you did that, but as a protective measure for their son to not have to go through the same thing that they went through again. And that's an interesting perspective. I'd be really curious to see, like, if we were actually coaching this individual, like specifically, like I'd want to know more about how they feel and like what their childhood looked like. In the edit, it
Hmm.
says, I was somewhat gaslit for my whole childhood, and this thread has really helped me to see how messed up it really was, that she consistently trauma dumped on me and put her grief on me during my childhood. And I'd be really curious to understand sort of more of the full story of what happened there, and sort of what steps this original poster is going to take or learn to take to break the cycle, because we know
Well,
trauma is passed down.
I want to pick up on something Dr. John said. You mentioned that the intention of the grandmother was important, and I actually didn't really agree with that element of it, because I feel like when it comes to something like death, even if her intention was as pure as snow or whatever you want to, pure as whatever, it's not her place. Like, let's take the trauma aside. I also like that was something I couldn't get past. This is a 5-year-old. Like, we talk a lot about parental rights and, how we want to, teach our children. I just, even if she told it in the best way, even if the mother was an amazing mother and the OP had no trauma, I think that one thing that's really important, if we were, let's say, coaching the mother, if you were to coach her, I think it's important that she knows that she can't parent the grandkid. It's up to her daughter. She can go to her daughter and say, I think it's important that you tell them about the fetus, and then her and her daughter can have that conversation. But it's almost like when you're at an employment and like you go above your manager's head to the regional manager and say, I want this done. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Like, let's say you're right and she had the best intentions, and maybe OP is completely delusional, like hypothetically speaking. It's still inappropriate, right? Like, even if we assume the grandmother had the best intentions, that the OP was the
Hmm.
worst version, I still would call the OP not an asshole, because still it's her choice to teach her kid at 5 years old. If the kid was 13, it'd be different, but at 5, I just don't think it's ever the grandmother's place to tell about death. Death is such a complicated topic, and you can barely grasp that at 5 years old, what that really means. And in a complicated topic like miscarriage, I don't know. I cannot feel much sympathy for the grandmother, even if she had good intentions. So I just wanted to pick
So
up, because you
the
mentioned.
operative assholery is that I recently found out that she did this with my son, as opposed to she asked me if I could do this. She could do this with my son.
Right. It's
Uh,
she's basically, she's going over the mother's head. This is the mother's job.
uh,
At some point, do I think that like, for example, if the kid was, let's say, 16, and my grandmother had the talk with me, it's a different conversation, right? At 16, that
yeah.
conversation might be super helpful, but at 5, I don't think this is a helpful conversation, and I don't think you can go over someone's head. Anytime you're going over someone's head, there's got to be the best reason, and I can't see any reason being the best reason.
So
That's just, sorry.
no, don't be sorry. Stream of consciousness here, but I think you bring up a lot of really good points. So for me, when we're coaching this individual, when we're talking to this individual, even if like you're just listening to the story and as a friend, for me, I'd be really interested in understanding what kind of relationship this original poster wants to now have with the mother, understanding that there is a 5-year-old involved. So
Mhm.
is that conversation with, the mom gonna be, hey mom, you're cut off from talking to my child? Is that conversation gonna be, hey mom, if you want to have a relationship with me and my child, it's gotta have to look this way? Is it going to be a more open discussion? Because it sounds like there weren't a lot of rules around this put into place, or quote unquote so-called boundaries. um it says here, I told her that's an off limits topic. I feel like that came after this whole situation happened.
Yes.
What does that conversation really sound like, and how can we move forward in a healthy way? Either choosing to have that relationship with the mom in a different way, or the relationship with the son. Because as we talk about on the show in a lot of different contexts, it sounds like it's time for some kind of reset that has yet to take place.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, when coaching someone like this, it really is also a question of moving forward. You're completely right, Johnny. Like, where do we go from here? Like, how do you want to actually enact those off limit topics that you brought up? Because, one would think that if this was such like a kind of um important topic in this person's life up till now, the grandmother would know well that this is an off-topic discussion, but it seems like it just came up organically. And so now it's like it could very much be a response of, okay, I won't talk about it with your son anymore. Done. Like, no problem.
Right.
We don't know, right? We don't know this grandmother. We just know that I don't think we've given a rating fully. I mean, you said that not an asshole. You said not an asshole. Uh, I'm going to say sort of an asshole, only because if it's such an important off limits topic, say that before.
Let me push back on that though.
Please,
Let's say
please.
she had told the 5-year-old about sex. Should
Sure.
you really say to an adult woman, do not teach my 5-year-old about sex? Like, I feel like there are some topics, it's just kind of common sense. Like, I believe in communication, I believe in listening, but at some point, you've got to have some common sense. Unless you have some sort of condition where that's difficult for you, which does not seem to be the case here. I can't see how the mother should not have known, should not be a 60-year-old woman and realize it was inappropriate. To not even consult with the mom, to take someone to a grave, to me, that's like not even something you need to bring up. It's just, I don't think she even considered that. It's so beyond the pale.
I guess I also think about like how there's so many different parenting styles, and also older people uh parented in a different era. So like I think about like, okay, a grandparent shows a 5-year-old a movie that might be a little bit too risque for them. I've heard that story before many
That
times, and
happened to
we're
me.
just like, yeah,
Not
and it's
risque, like scary. It's traumatized me. I
scared.
saw a
Sure,
murder.
there you go. And we can all say like, oh, this person should know, but when they were a kid or when they were raising their kids, there was no problem to do that, and it was a different time. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't have to conform to the parents parenting style if they're the grandparent, but I think they should have to be told some things that are just like, we don't do this. And she knows for a fact that this person knows or thinks that it's okay to tell a child about a miscarriage because she experienced it herself as a kid. So why wouldn't she explicitly say to the grandmother, I understand that you believe in doing this. I don't. Please do not do this. I think that is getting this mad and knowing that your grandmother is like that, and sorry, that your adopted mom is like that, and not saying anything to her. I just feel like that's poor communication. I don't think that you're completely the asshole at all. I just think that it's kind of asshole behavior to be to not take any responsibility for a lack of communicating an off limits topic.
Right. And then now from here, it's about how do we move forward? It's some kind of conversation that has a firm directive. If we're moving forward, hey, when we're talking to my son, who's also coincidentally probably named Jonathan, sorry, Josh,
Statistically.
it just
It's
has to
just
be what it is. They can join the
makes
council.
sense.
Um, there has to be a firm
Joshithan.
directive saying, hey, like this conversation does not exist until I'm ready to have this conversation with my son. At that point, I'll let you know. And if maybe we can all have that conversation together. And the next conversation we're all going to have together is very spicy. It's going to be really really, really spicy. And John, do you want to give it a read, or do you want me to read it?
No, I'll go ahead and read it.
Do it.
I love a spicy one, but I like to not have to comment on the spicy ones right away.
Yeah.
Am I the asshole for doing an Olay and letting a kid hurt himself? I, a 34-year-old male, was grocery shopping and there was a woman there with her kid. I already see where this is going. The woman was talking on her phone the whole time. The kid was running around like a tiny drunk rodeo clown. I hear the kid yell a battle cry, and I see him charging towards me with a foam diamond axe from Minecraft. I got the fuck out of his way, and with my Bugs Bunny like reflexes, he ran headfirst into the handle of my shopping cart. Now his mom is paying attention. He is splayed out on his back, moaning, and she asks why I let him get hurt. Yeah, there is absolutely zero chance on going to touch a random kid. I told my boyfriend about it when I got home, and he said I was an asshole for not intervening and letting a child get hurt. I think he is an asshole for not understanding the world we live in these days. Interesting.
Holy
Okay, am I the
shit.
asshole?
Holy
Wow.
shit, there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah, there's so much. Josh,
There's
go for
so
it.
much to
Go for
unpack here.
Do you want
this
to
Oh
go
my
first,
God.
or do you want me to?
No, you can go for. There's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Like that was a freaking plot twist at the end where I'm like, okay, I get this, but now because we have the situation, and now we're getting into this political discussion about, can men intervene? Like, how would that be seen? And I'm just like, man, this is a complicated story. I don't even know how to parse this one. Like I'm gonna say right now, my gut check before Jonathan gives him more is no, because I play goalie, I play catcher. My job is to stop things from going to other places. I don't know if I would have actually been able to help the kid. You don't know, people what you think, with my Bugs Bunny reflexes. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've had my dad drop his phone and I caught it. I've had my mom drop
You are
something else
Spider-Man.
and I didn't catch it, right? You don't know. You try your best. So is he the a-hole? No, because even if he had intervened, who knew if he could have stopped the kid from hurting himself? And what if by grabbing the kid falls, right? The kid is running around like a wild thing.
Yeah.
But there's so much to unpack. There's so much more to it than is he the asshole? There's a lot going on here. Oh my God. This is a story.
Go for it. Honestly, you can unpack the whole thing. It's your turn.
I mean, okay, so one thing that just bothers me a lot as someone who's now an adult, apparently, is when people don't. I know when people don't watch their kids. I look at the first part of the story, right? The kid is running down. I don't understand. To me, it's so bad to not watch your kid. So I feel it's okay, this is happening. Then I think about him getting out of the way. Did he do that just out of instinct? And then I don't know, then the boyfriend, it's just, there's just so much. I'm curious what you guys think, because I feel like it's easier for me to kind of go off what you guys are going to say, because this could go on forever. There's so many different layers to this story, but my gut is he's not an asshole for getting out of the way. And I think the boyfriend's a little bit judgy, and I'd love to see him in that situation help the kid, because I don't think it's actually as easy as you think it is. It's so easy. You just grab him, yeah, and then what? Maybe the kid falls on his back now. Grab him by what? The shirt, his neck. It is not easy when someone is running at you to grab them. I've played a little bit of football. I'm bad at that. But, you try and tackle someone. If you ever watch the NFL, they all the time get called for bad tackles, grabbing the whatever, I forget what they call it. I don't watch too much football, but they get called for that penalty where they grab the collarbone all the time. They don't mean to. They get penalties where they grab the helmet. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to tackle someone who is running away from them. So yeah, there's a lot to pat. There's no stories too much.
So before I go, do you think they're the asshole?
No, not at all. I think the best thing.
Thanks for using our rating system. Appreciate it.
I would put him actually at the not at all the asshole. He got out of the way. In this situation, he's not a parent. And I do not believe, so my rule for intervention is you have to be pretty certain, reasonably certain, you can make a positive impact. I, as an outside observer, am not reasonably certain he could have made a positive impact on that situation. Hence, his best option from an ethical standpoint was to remove himself from the situation, allow it to take place as it did. The boyfriend is the A, but that's not what this subreddit's about.
So I'm gonna go, and I think this one's interesting.
Yeah.
Because this kid is running. So here's how I imagine this story, and we'd have to ask for a lot more details about specifically what was the makeup of this aisle, what was the, how far was the mom, where was the shopping cart. Like, there's a lot of, even though that can seem a little bit boring, that can really help us to visualize the same thing they're visualizing. With that, I'm gonna, for the context of the show, I'm gonna make an assumption about how it looked. They're in an aisle. They're in the canned vegetable aisle that has, like the small end cap of gluten-free items. And the mom is closer to the end of the gluten-free items because she's considering trying something new. She has her aisle. She's on the phone. She's checking out new recipes for making gluten-free cornbread, which is delicious. Bob's Red Mill does a great job. And this kid is like, I have a foam axe. I am Steve, Lord of the Blocks. And I see this loser down there, and I'm going to charge at him. And they're probably what? I hear the kid yell a battle cry. If we're like charging at a certain speed that like you're like, oh, I'm going to jump out of the way with Bugs Bunny reflexes. We have foam diamond axe. Let's place this kid around 9. That seems reasonable to me. Energy wise as well seems totally reasonable. If they're coming down the aisle, one, if we're that far down an aisle where a kid has enough time to charge at speed and you have enough time to think about your Bugs Bunny reference, go to the next aisle. Like, it's probably an available option. If it's not an available option, you can just say, hey buddy, stop. Like, kids don't like strangers, and if you say stop, they'll usually 9 times out of 10 listen. Also, you can move the cart out of the way when you move instead of needing to do the ole like with the bull. Because the ole, the way they asked this question, they waited till the last possible moment and then they just jumped out of the way like the bull.
Ooh, it's a good point.
So like there were other options that they could have considered, especially being 34. We're not talking about a teenager here. We're talking about a 34-year-old person who spent a lot of time watching Bugs Bunny. Like, that is a person who, one, great taste in television. 2, like, there was time to make a separate decision. That's what it feels like. Secondly, the shopping cart handle would be at about head height on a kid. And if you're running that fast, that would hurt. I would have moved the shopping cart out of the way. I would have, even now we all have to bring our own bags to grocery stores because the environment or something like that. By the way,
This is probably in the state. This is probably in the States where they don't have to do that.
Okay, but there were probably there could, if he wanted to do that, he could have put something on the handle. He could have moved the cart. I think there were a lot of options not considered. I think kind of the asshole. With that said, I understand the fear around redirecting a kid. Like, when I was a youth worker, if somebody I was working with or somebody who was in the same school would go for some kind of aggressive motion or something like that, there's guides to move them out of the way. There's like a wrist thing, a back, that like you grab the wrist, move the back, move them out of the way. You can be a bit of a ninja about it, but that's not this case. This is not somebody who would have those skills. I just think they could have moved out of the way without letting the kid get hurt. Secondly, and here's the reason why I think that it's pushing closer to the asshole place. And for such a small post, we're very interested in all the details here. So interesting. When this kid is splayed out on their back, like, they made their choice, you made yours, fine. Like, what's done is done. Maybe there was not enough time to think about it and it just happened. And you're just, very artful in creating imagery in your stories in a short amount of time. Check in on the kid. Hey, buddy, you hurt your head. We're on the ground now. If they're splayed out on their back moaning, they're hurt, most likely. You have to check in on them or say, hey, are you their mother? Hey, they just ran into me and fell. or ran into the cart or ran into the can of beans, whatever the case is. They didn't check. It doesn't sound like they checked in on him, on the kid. So that would be the more asshole point without, making all of the assumptions. The boyfriend, I think, did not ask enough questions, because if we got that much from this post, like, what was their conversation like? Was it that short that there was nothing to talk about and they were just like, you let the child get hurt? So they have stuff to work through too. Also, kids being tiny drunk rodeo clowns is pretty funny.
Like, the idea he just goes home and he just says, like, yeah, I just watched this kid whiff it today. It was awesome. High fives his boyfriend, and the boyfriend's like, no.
I'm gonna wait.
Not again.
Are we allowed to read between the lines of like these posts?
You can. We try to take what these people say at face value, because in a coaching scenario, honestly, that's what you have. You have what the person tells you, and the idea is you're coaching the way they see the world, right? And so what matters is how they saw it. And based on how they saw it, I think that this guy's not the asshole. If a soccer ball is rolling towards me and I notice it and I kick it as a reflex and it goes like totally in the opposite direction of where the game was being played, am I an asshole, or do I just have shitty reflexes? Because my reflexes are probably in line with what this guy would do. If something's heading towards me, I jump out of the way. I didn't intend for there to be a shopping cart behind me. It just happened. And for the next phase of it, what you mentioned earlier, Johnny, according, like, obviously this isn't like a moral absolute, but in the rest of Canada, except for Quebec, someone gets hurt, you don't have to help them. It's good to help them, and you won't get in trouble for it because there's Good Samaritan laws, but you don't have to help them. And I think the reason is because there's a lot of like sticky, like, liability things that can happen when you help someone, and I understand that, and I think that that's why the Good Samaritan law exists. But if you say, like, I don't want to kind of put myself in that situation, that's your right, except in Quebec, you have to in Quebec. The person here is being asked by the mom why he didn't intervene, why he let the kid get hurt. I don't think that that's fair of the mom. I think she is being an asshole because her failure of preventing the kid from doing something dangerous is now being projected onto this guy. I think the boyfriend's being a little bit unfair, but I think the guy here is basically being very defensive about a very simple thing. I had a reflex. It didn't work out for your kid. That wasn't intentional. That sucks, but I wasn't doing anything on purpose. I don't think you can unintentionally be an asshole, but for reflexes, I draw the line there. I personally draw the line there.
I got a question for you, because both of you work at the Journal That Talks Back. You see journaling, but the interesting thing I picked up as Jonathan was talking, other Jonathan, was the
original Jonathan,
the original
Jonathan Prime,
the OG Jonathan. The way he writes this makes it seem semi-intentional, actually. Am I the asshole for doing an Olay? Why would he describe it as that? See, the thing is, when you were talking, John, you were talking about a soccer ball coming at you and you having a reflex. See, I'm reading between the lines here. Why didn't he help the kid? Why did he call an Olay? I think this guy kind of wanted the kid to get his comeuppance. This kid was running around with a Minecraft axe, battle cry. The way I'm reading this, if I'm not a coach, I don't work at the Journal That Talks Back, but if someone wrote this to me after sitting and digesting and hearing what you guys had to say, and my gut was that he's not an asshole, I'm going to change my vote to, I think he kind of is. I think he kind of was indifferent to the kid getting hurt. I think
the complete lack of solidarity. My God. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I think Jonathan really convinced me. Like, he could have moved out of the way. I think he was happy the kid got hurt in some level. I think he felt like the kid was wild. He was, maybe threatening him in a way, like, he was running at me. I felt unsafe, and good for this. And I know people who think like that, right? Like, this kid got what he deserved. The way he writes the story, by calling it an Olay, by not checking on the kid, makes me feel like that's an element, but I still agree with you guys. He is like in a binary scale, he's not the asshole. In our quadrinary scale, I think
Nice
he's
word.
kind of the asshole.
So I think what's interesting here is there's actually one more component to this, and that's why I started off with what I say. And I often, like, I'll say, I'll give my gut reaction, and then I'll say, like, let's take a look at what's going on here. What are the questions we'd ask? Because in these cases, we don't know the whole story. The other piece we don't actually often bring up on the show, which is crazy because this will be our 20th episode and this hasn't come up. Reddit's a social media platform. People write things in a way to get more attention. When I went to go pick our post quickly, I saw, "Am I the asshole for doing an Olay and letting a kid hurt himself?" I'm like, that's pretty good. Like
That's what he wanted. He wanted upvotes.
that's a reasonable story. That's kind
Yeah.
of funny. So it could be that, they were proud of their Bugs Bunny like reflexes, or it could be a method of storytelling. So to everyone's point, there's missing pieces here. We acknowledge there's some questions we'd want to know, like, how big is this aisle? What was going on? Like, why didn't you
How
check
far
in on
away
the
was
kid after? How far away was the kid? If you knew that it was a foam diamond axe from Minecraft and you had time to pick that up, was there time to take a look? And also, why didn't we check in on the kid after? Were you just like proud of, your movement, or did you not want to be close to the kid? Are you not familiar with helping people who hurt themselves? Or are there other pieces going on? Maybe there's social anxiety and we don't want to talk to strangers. It could be like a million different things. So it's an interesting one, and there's a lot of data missing. But what was really interesting about this post compared to a lot of other small posts is what all three of our minds were just like filling in all the blanks of this story, and we're like, it was very good storytelling, top
Yeah.
tier.
And then
Yeah.
I love at the end after this whole story, it's like, oh, let's get into the whole topic of like, well, as a man, I don't want to, it's like, oh my God, like, we already have all this stuff, and now you're gonna throw this extra layer onto it. And I didn't even want to touch that. I'm just like, yeah, that's
Well, that's the thing. Did you have the time to think about gender politics while this
Oh
kid
yeah.
was running towards you? Because if so,
Yeah.
then it wasn't a reflex, and you're a total asshole. But if you didn't, and you're just retroactively, that's what it sounds like. That's what all this post sounds like. I'm retroactively justifying a kid getting hurt because I decided to move out of the way as a reflex. That's what this whole thing sounds like to me, and it's just overcomplicated because of the need for upvotes.
And one thing I always used to say when I used to do this on stream is like a lot of these votes, I'd say like 50% are fake, but let's just assume they're real. Like it's no fun assuming these people are lying. Like if this really did happen, how would we deal with it? Because we have to sort of take the post at face value. But I will say this one's definitely either exaggerated. It's just the way he writes, like Minecraft sword, Bugs Bunny reflexes, Olay. This is very flowery. It's very different from our first post where it feels very genuine and heartfelt. Like this is someone just hopping on Reddit. They're devastated. They don't know what to do. This person's like, oh my God, do I have a story for you? And I'm just like, okay, this is a story.
And if you want to share your own stories and have a coach respond to you, you got to check out the Journal That Talks Back. All you have to do is go to thejournalthattalksback.com, book a call. You'll talk to one of the Jonathans. We won't tell you with. You don't have to talk to Josh. Don't worry.
No, you won't talk to me.
If you press 0 for a long time
yeah.
while you're talking to us, you will actually get connected to Josh.
His
We haven't
extension
told
is
him.
111.
We haven't told him that. Yeah.
If you want coaching, go to the Jonathans. If you want judgment, you can go to my stream. You can tell me. People always like to tell me stuff on stream, and I always tell them I don't care. I'm playing Pokemon right now. I don't got time for this. It's great. If that's what you need to hear, I promise you, it's free too. But if you want actual help and people to walk you through and like you've seen in these episodes, they're pretty good at it. I can tell you, they do it for me for free. I get the friends discount of free.
So he doesn't know that he's our guinea pig.
Yeah.
we just trained on him exactly. What's your
Guys, if it works on me, it'll work on you.
What's your Twitch? Where can they find you, Josh?
It's called JROSE 11. It's not at all like this. I don't actually do this anymore, But we used to do this too. It's fun. It's really fun reading these again. It's been a long time since we used to do this. But yeah, they are really good. So, and honestly, like I think you can see from the Am I the Asshole, it can be really therapeutic to journal and imagine having someone actually respond to, instead of random Reddit people who have no training. You get people who actually know what they're talking about, who can parse out and find these details. It's good.
Yes.
I vouch for the service.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's very kind of you, Josh.
They didn't even pay me to do this.
No, not this time.
Not hashtag non-spawn.
Hashtag non-spawn.
First time free. But if you're interested in checking it out, go to thejournalthattalksback.com. Check out Josh on Twitch and book a call with us. We'll be a little bit less goofy than we are here, but we're still pretty fun. We're going to match you with your very own coach. You'll track your mood, sleep, stress, and journal. And your coach will read and respond always within 24 hours. But our average response time right now is like 11 hours or less, which is pretty solid. So check it out. Check out the Journal That Talks Back. And Am I the Bleep is on streaming platforms everywhere. We'll tell you what those are right after we read our last post. And I
think it's your turn.
It is my turn.
Oh my gosh.
I tried to do like a really like low pro segue.
No, never on this show. A low pro segue. Our segues have to be flashy,
flowery. I did an Olay is what I did. Am I the asshole for ruining my own birthday party by exposing my sister in front of everyone? Let's go.
That's some word choice. All right.
Yeah, well, we'll find out what these words mean, I hope.
Yeah.
This started several months ago when my sister told me her cat is refusing to use the litter box ever since she had him declawed. She was planning to surrender him when I told her I'll take him in myself. The cat is my cat now. Yesterday, when my siblings, parents, and other relatives came over for my birthday, my aunt noticed that I don't have any litter box at my place. She assumed I wasn't taking proper care of my cat, and the others did as well. They all started lecturing and calling me a cheapskate until I told them that my cat doesn't use the litter box since he's declawed. I forgot to consider that they would assume I was the one who declawed him. My sister joined in on telling me off to cover up for herself, so I told everyone she was the one who declawed the cat before giving him to me. She turned red and started shouting at me, calling me a snitch. I shouted back that it's my job to take the blame for her action, and we had an argument before our uncle stepped in. Let's go, Unc. My mom is now saying I should have just taken the blame for it instead of escalating and having a full-blown argument in front of my guests who were all there for me. That, a shouting match in front of them, was in poor taste. Did I handle it wrongly? Or in other words, am I the asshole?
Can you read the edit?
Thank you very much, everyone. Just to clarify, yes, I have been allowing him to pee and poop on the floor after he refused to use the paper litter, but I will start using puppy pads as suggested by many.
She's the asshole.
House.
I'm done.
Full house.
Gross. Freaking gross. Oh my God. Okay. So I'm not a vet. Declawing a cat, please do not do that. Do not do that. It's 2023. It is horrifically inhumane. I can't even, who does that anymore? I don't even think vets will do that. It's so horrible. Poor cat.
So, there's two big issues here, which one being the humanity. What's the word?
Humaneness, I think.
Humaneness of the actions towards the cat. We can talk about that, and that's kind of like, is the sister the asshole? That's a conversation. Yeah. There's a second conversation, which is escalating this problem in front of people at the home. But Josh, do you want to take a first stab, or do you want the doctor himself?
I mean, I went first last time, but like, I just want to point out, I looked this up. It is banned, not in Ontario, funny enough, but it is banned in 8 of the 10 provinces, as well as like many, many countries, most of Europe. So like, I just want to point out this has to be the US, because like there are so many places, unless it's in Ontario, where this is banned. You can't even declaw your cats anymore.
Yeah.
Come on, Doug Ford. What are you doing?
I think that what's interesting is in the story, the first thing that they're commenting on is that the OP is a cheapskate for not having a litter box. So a lot of assumptions being made about the OP by their family immediately on their birthday, which is like, cool birthday, I guess. And then immediately afterwards, the explanation causes them to start telling the OP off about decline. And I think here at this juncture, before the sister joined in, the whole situation was different. Is it very kind of you to take the blame here? Yes. Do you have to? No. Would it be an asshole kind of thing to be like, my sister did it? Maybe. I don't know. Like, it's not the nicest thing to do to your sister. Like, she's done, she probably regrets it in hindsight, and gave you a cat. Like, your sister hasn't wronged you in any way yet. So just kind of throwing her under the bus to save yourself, that's not super great. But when your sister decided to join in, she did you a favor, because she completely sealed the deal that you are not an asshole for being like, are you kidding me? You're the one who did this, you poser, you faker, you, like, obviously snitches get stitches, and that's been the am I the bleep, standing rule.
That's never been spoken about on this show.
No, never. Okay, well,
once.
from what I understand, snitches are liable to be hurt or get stitched up, but you're not a snitch. You're just defending yourself with the truth. Like,
Isn't
you're
she,
allowed to
though?
stand up.
Isn't she?
Up until the point that the sister joined in, yes, that's snitching. Because you're snitching to get someone else, you're telling to get someone else in trouble. But for the sister needs to learn a lesson to stand in her truth. She made a mistake. Right. And now she's blaming you for it in order to get everyone to rag on you. And I'll remind you all, to rag on you on your birthday. On your birthday? No, absolutely right. Not. No.
I hear what you're saying, but like, there's a couple things I want to point out about the story. There's a missing detail that's pretty clear. Why do you think the parents asked where the litter box was? Why would someone ask that question, right? The cat was peeing on the floor. So already, huge asshole. But regardless, there's a secondary thing. She gave a BS excuse. Oh, it's because the cat was declawed. That's BS. I'm sorry. I'm not a vet. I don't believe that is why. I don't think.
But that's what the sister said. That's what the sister said.
Did the sister say that? Maybe I misread.
This started several months ago when my sister told me her cat was refusing to use the litter box ever since she had him declawed. The decline was the event that precipitated no longer using a litter box, according to the sister who was there.
You're right. I misread.
And then OP swoops in like a hero to take this cat.
Bad. Yeah,
it's fine. Otherwise, I usually misread everything, and then John corrects me because he's a doctor. You don't have to worry about it. It's not just
so. If that didn't happen, I would say that the birthday OP is a huge a-hole. But because the sister gave her that excuse, it was thus because she didn't have to bring up that the cat was even declawed, right? Why even bring that up? So now it makes more sense. But still, are you kidding me? Cat? I've never heard a cat won't use a litter box since they were. Oh, the cat's probably in so much pain.
Yeah, the sister's not cool. The sister did a lot of not cool things in the story, but the OP's not an asshole. The OP was doing a kindness by not saying my sister did this. And then the sister, don't you think? Like, the sister really. Is basically the sister made the mistake.
Litter boxes are important for cats. Like, one of the most important feline behaviors is covering up your peeps and poops. If you don't do that, that means something's wrong with the cat. It's acting in a way that's not natural, and thus you should take it. I don't think she should surrender it, but the fact it's still doing that, if she wants to take in the cat, she should take care of the cat and figure out, okay, why is my cat not doing this thing all cats do? So just letting her pee and poo on the floor is not responsible. It's disgusting. And it's one of those things where it's like Phoebe Buffay and Friends. I let a bee sting me because, you know, it didn't benefit me. It's like you think you're being nice, but you just killed the bee. You think you're being nice to the cat, but you're actually doing a lot of damage. And maybe like you're trying to make yourself feel good. It's not about the cat, because the cat should be going in a litter box. That's natural cat behavior. Why isn't it doing that? Why aren't you taking it to a vet? Why don't you have an explanation beyond it was declawed? That's not an explanation.
I think there's a double-sided assholery going on, and that's kind of why I brought up both instances in the story. If you take something into your care that was not in your care before, that you may or may not know how to care for based on events that may or may not have been out of your control. In this case, you know, the cat was declawed before. By the way, whoever's listening, I'm allergic to cats. I've never had a cat. My friend has a cat named after my mom. It's a weird thing, and like that's as far as it goes. But
that's why I know so much about cats, by the way.
I just know that like when you bring something into your home that you're not familiar with and don't know what to do based on, you know, like it could be having a rescue dog as opposed to taking a dog in from a breeder, for example, who might have seen some stuff. Talk to somebody who has done it before or is an expert on that specific situation, so you know what you're in for and know how to properly take care of that thing. Taking it in, yes, you're doing a kindness by doing that thing, but there's a much kinder way to do it when you know all the details. So I, for example, had no clue about, you know, the feline behavior in the litter box thing. I've actually always been confused by litter boxes. But if somehow somebody, you know, in record time made a vaccine for me to not be allergic to cats and I could finally have a cat in my home or a dog, the first thing I would do, my dad has a friend who's a vet, I would say, hey man, this is something I want to do. What is every single thing I need to know? Also, can you help me transition this dog in or cat in so I know what the hell
I'm sure
doing?
vets love it when you do that, by the way.
I'm sure.
Like you go to a pediatrician, you're just like, I just need to know everything there is to know about babies.
Tell me about children.
Tell me about children now.
So I do think that OP is kind of the asshole actually for not actually doing their full research. And you know, in the edit, which Josh brought up that I was gonna look at, that I would have looked at after. Thanks very much, Josh.
Oh, no problem.
Why are we going like in Reddit? It's like, okay, yeah, like use puppy pads. Like, sure, that's wisdom, but like you could have gotten that before and not have to wait till shit went haywire and you had to go to Reddit.
Secondly, on. That's not a solution. I love how she's like, I'm gonna use puppy pads. They're called puppy pads because they're for dogs. They're for puppies. Sure. They're not for cats.
But it could be that that's like a good in-between solution, like given
Soft
this
litter.
Scenario.
Soft litter.
Soft litter?
I looked it up. I wanted to make sure I was right. Apparently, cats are declawed. Some of them, the litter is too hard. There is special litter that's very soft, but it is natural for a cat. The reason it's probably not using the litter box is that it's probably got nerve damage from the inhumane declawing, and it cannot stand on the litter, so you have to get special litter. But again, if you're going to take in a disabled animal, or hey, if you want to adopt someone with a disability, you better meet their needs. You are not doing a kindness to a living organism by taking in something disabled and not meeting its needs. If you cannot do that, please wait to let someone do it. Let her surrender the cat, and hopefully someone, but you're not doing a kindness by thinking, oh, I'll do my best. It's not good enough.
And that's where I was going.
Okay. You both then fine.
Wait.
Fine. I'm gonna rescind my thing. Go ahead, Johnny, but I'm just gonna say I'm gonna rescind. Yeah, this person is making a mistake, but they're not an asshole for the rest of the story. Yeah, can we agree on that?
That's why I wanted to separate the two pieces. There's the story of the cat and there's the story of the sister. If somebody calls you out on your birthday and you're like, this is not my fault, it's just like, maybe I don't know how to deal with this properly. On your birthday, totally not fair.
On your birthday!
This sister is double the asshole in this scenario.
I was wrong. I thought she brought up the declawing for no reason. I realized the sister had told her that. Yeah. So yes, for that element of the story, completely not the asshole. If it's like, oh, who spilt that milk on the floor? Why? Your birthday. You spilled milk on the floor on your birthday? You spilt it on my birthday. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, would anyone...
You snitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you snitch. It's like, you just yelled at me for this. The thing you did on my birthday.
On her birthday.
And then the mom's like, this sister's probably the favorite. The mom's like, Ah, God, what a dysfunctional family.
And
Yeah, seriously.
so we're all in agreement about that one. Just I want to elaborate a bit on Josh's point from before because I think it's important now that it's brought up is that if you bring something or someone into your home that requires extra care of some type, be sure or do the research and even better talk to an expert about how to do that care. It's not that you're not the right parent or person in that situation. It's just that the right education can actually empower you to take good care of that person or that animal. That's super, super important. So yes, it's a good thing to take in, the cat from your sister who is obviously not taking good care of the cat, but it's still now up to you to take good care of that cat. Now, also extra, take care of that cat who now has this declawing issue. So, Josh, in 3 minutes with a simple Google search, figured out a solution. This did not have to wait this long, and that cat suffered as a result of that. So, not cool.
Can I change my answer again because of the last part of the story, aside from the cat stuff?
Do it.
I think that the mom is wrong and right. The mom is saying should have taken the blame. Incorrect. No, you do not. You do not have to take the blame for something you didn't do,
Sure.
especially on your birthday. But as someone who likes to make a big deal about birthdays, I believe in setting a tone on your birthday. And you can't ask your guests to match a tone that you do not set. So if you want your birthday to be a fun time, don't have shouting matches on your birthday. Have the self-control to say, like, you're wrong. I disagree with you. We're going to talk about this a different time. I think I think that you have to be like a little bit mature and say, like, having a fight in front of friends, family, whatever is inappropriate because you know, it's bad host behavior. And I think that part of it, sort of an asshole. Obviously, things escalated out of hand and you were wronged and you obviously made mistakes with the cat. But I think that from that perspective, you're not being a good host. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have fights with people on your birthday. You're not entitled to be an asshole in front of everyone.
And that's
Right or
something
not.
that's
I
something
want to
that
point.
comes up. Oh, sorry, you can go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I read the comments because this is important. In the comments, the cat was going to the bathroom on the carpet. And I think that's why. So I do want to, we talked to you talk. I love what you said about setting the tone. Inviting people to a home where there's cat pee and poo everywhere is not very polite. Like if I went to someone's home and their dog was pooping on the floor and I had to sit there, that's why it came. So the way she presents is the sister is trying to cover up. I think the sister was just weirded out that the solution she had picked is let it poo. And maybe it was also to cover her own butt. But yeah, I do want to point out that I think that also makes her a bit of a, like, in the secondary issue of is she a snitch? You allowed the cat to pee on the floor, which precipitated this argument. And if you did not allow that to happen, the argument never would occur. The family only got mad at you because they couldn't understand why this was happening. And it's gross. It's really gross and smelly.
Yeah. So we're us three. We're talking most of the time about mental health. We know nothing about cats. We're learning as we go. If you have an opinion about what happened during this episode, who the asshole is, I think on Spotify there's a Q&A answer. Like, who do you think is the asshole here? Who messed up? Who did the wrong thing? And we'd love to hear your thoughts. You could email us at jonathans@thejournalthattalksback.com. We also made a Josh at thejournalthattalksback.com. You can just email that too. Share your thoughts, share your opinions. We'd love to hear. And if you're interested in listening to other episodes of Am I the Bleep, you can find them all over the place. Places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, our website, thejournalthattalksback.com. And please, for the love of God, give us a minimum of 5 stars. If there's 6 stars, give us 6 stars. We do a
Yeah.
great job. We wake up, we had breakfast, we woke up thinking about assholes, and we did this all for you. So we demand 6-star rating, 100%, 150%. Show the love. John, where else can they find us?
Well, I was going to say, give us a 5-star rating. Go to another 5-star rating that you gave for a different podcast. Steal one of the stars, add it onto ours. Use tape if you gotta. 6 stars. I don't care.
White out.
This one's for you, Josh. We're also on we're on Keek. We're on Keek. Yeah,
I've never heard of Keek.
Yeah, it was a video status update website where people would upload Keeks, which were these little updates of themselves. And it is not defunct. It is totally real, and we're definitely on it. So go check us out.
Definitely has staying power.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Josh, it's tradition around here that before we close out the episode, first, if you have any last words before Dr. John takes us away with his version of motivation, feel free.
Yeah.
My loyal listeners who are never going to listen to me again. No, I'm kidding. Just, honestly, I think what we can learn from these stories is be honest, communicate, and just, honestly, just try to do your best. And I think what we've learned from the stories when we've talked about a-holes are people either not communicating or not doing just very basic things like basic research, basic human kindness, not playing Matador with a 5-year-old or whatever. I mean, the fact of the matter is, just honestly, there's always going to be situations where it can go either way. If you try your best, generally speaking, you won't be the bleep.
And don't declaw your cats.
No, please don't do that. Or your dogs. Or don't.
Don't declaw things. Things have claws for reasons.
Dogs don't have claws, but you know what I'm saying. Don't cut off their nail. Like, you wouldn't think of like chopping off your entire dog's nails. Oh God. Poor cat. I feel so bad.
On that not graphic note, we're going to have a little quote that we're going to just chew on, grow on, and get better from. And the quote this week is, I don't see how you can respect yourself if you must look in the hearts and minds of assholes for your happiness.